The battlefield, from a distance, resembles a sea of smoke and chaos. The screams of soldiers, the whistling of bullets, and the roar of artillery create a relentless nightmare. Suddenly, from behind a hill, a soldier appears with a strange tube on his shoulder. From it bursts a blazing flame that devours everything in its path. The soldiers around freeze in terror. It was a flamethrower, a weapon that could change the course of battle in seconds. The first modern flamethrowers appeared during World War I. German forces used them in 1915 on the Western Front. The range of early models was around 20 meters, and the flame that burst from the tube could reach temperatures of about 1,000 degrees Celsius, enough to melt wooden shields and straw-covered shelters. The flamethrower wasn't deadly in the classical sense at long distances, but its psychological effect was devastating. Soldiers often surrendered or fled without waiting for direct contact with the flames. The first encounter with a flamethrower felt like facing living fire, and even seasoned soldiers often collapsed in panic, realizing that defense was nearly impossible. The terror and sense of helplessness made this weapon one of the most terrifying in the world. To understand the power of the flamethrower, we must go back thousands of years. In ancient China, as early as the 9th century, the first prototypes of this deadly weapon appeared. They used combustible mixtures and gunpowder to set fire to fortresses and city defenses. Simple in appearance, they were extremely effective and inspired fear in enemies. Chinese engineers created the first flamethrowers as early as the 9th to 10th centuries. They were called fire sprays and were used during city sieges. During World War I, flamethrowers took on their modern form, a portable device worn on the back, with a fuel tank and a tube for projecting flames. Flamethrowers had a limited fuel supply, typically 10 to 15 seconds of continuous use, but even such a short burst could break through the defenses of fortified positions. The flamethrower symbolized not only physical power, but also fear, and that fear often decided the outcome of a battle before active combat even began. Military diaries and memoirs reveal that even experienced soldiers, upon seeing the flames, would often abandon their positions. World War I was a landscape of trenches, barbed wire, and constant fear of death. In 1915, the Germans used portable flamethrowers on the front for the first time. From the moment these deadly tubes appeared, combat changed forever. Soldiers on other fronts would clutch their heads in dread when a flamethrower operator approached their position. Early German models, such as the Flammenwerfer M1915, had a range of approximately 20 to 30 meters, but that was enough to intimidate or destroy an enemy in a trench. Flamethrowers used mixtures based on gasoline and other flammable substances that ignited easily when exposed to air. On many fronts, flamethrowers were used to clear trenches, dugouts, and fortifications where machine guns and rifles were less effective. The flamethrower became a symbol of the horror of war, as soldiers found it hard to imagine how one could resist living fire. Eyewitness accounts from the front describe the flamethrower as a fiery demon that devours everything in its path. Not every soldier could withstand even a single glance at the flaming trail cutting through the trenches. Those who saw a flamethrower often panicked long before the fire reached their position. The flamethrower wasn't just a weapon. It was a psychological force that shattered the will to fight. Studies show that the psychological impact of the flamethrower was greater than its physical danger. Soldiers who survived a flamethrower attack described a fear so intense it paralyzed them for several seconds, often enough to decide the outcome of the battle. Flamethrower operators usually worked in pairs. One handled the device, while the other provided cover and psychological support. The flamethrower changed battlefield tactics, forcing the enemy to retreat or lose morale. Its effect could be compared to a living threat that hunted soldiers, and that fear often left a mark for life. World War II brought new fronts and new methods of warfare. The flamethrower was given new life as a powerful offensive weapon. It was used in cities, jungles, and underground fortifications. Flamethrower operators became heroes in some stories, and symbols of fear in others. American forces used the portable M2 flamethrower during the Pacific campaigns against Japanese fortifications on the islands. The Germans widely employed the Flammenwerfer 35 and Flammenwerfer 41 in urban combat and on the Eastern Front. Flamethrowers were highly effective for clearing underground fortifications, bunkers, and trenches, places where bullets and artillery were less effective. For soldiers facing a flamethrower, it was a nightmare that often ended in surrender or retreat. The flamethrower redefined close-quarters combat. The enemy now knew that, at a certain point, even a concrete bunker could no longer offer safety. Testimonies from those who survived a flamethrower attack confirm its terrifying effectiveness. One such case occurred on the island of Iwo Jima. American soldiers described how Japanese fortifications were literally obliterated by fire, and every step toward those bunkers came at the cost of lives. At Iwo Jima, 1945, American flamethrowers were used to drive Japanese soldiers out of mountain fortifications where they were shielded from machine gun fire. In Stalingrad, Soviet forces used flamethrowers to clear German bunkers and trenches, significantly reducing casualties among attacking troops. Numerous accounts describe the fear and panic caused by flamethrowers. Soldiers often refused to advance until the shelters were set ablaze. The flamethrower left a psychological scar on soldiers for life. Its use was not only physically destructive, but also morally and emotionally demoralizing. The flamethrower looks simple: a tube, a fuel tank, and an igniter. But its effectiveness is hidden in the details. As technology developed, flamethrowers became more powerful, the flames' range increased, and tactics for their use changed. Early models, Flammenwerfer M1915, had a backpack tank of about 12 liters and a firing range of 20 to 30 meters. During World War II, the range of the American M2 flamethrower increased to 30 to 35 meters, and the burning jet could ignite wooden and straw shelters. Flamethrowers came in two main versions: backpack portable and heavy ground-mounted systems used to fire at large fortifications. Modern industrial and military models reach temperatures above 1,000 degrees Celsius, making them lethally dangerous even at short distances. Soldiers knew a single burst, and the shelter could be destroyed, and the people inside burned. It was not just a weapon, but an instrument of terror that forced the enemy to submit even before the battle began. The flamethrower left its mark not only on wars, but also on military science and the psychology of combat. Its legacy is still felt in modern armed conflicts, though its use is now heavily restricted by international laws and ethical standards. After World War II, the use of flamethrowers was restricted by international agreements, but they were still used in local conflicts until the end of the 20th century. The flamethrower became a subject of study in tactical training as an example of a psychological weapon capable of changing the course of battle. Many military museums have exhibits of the Flammenwerfer M1915, Flammenwerfer 41, and the M2, serving as symbols of both fear and engineering ingenuity. The flamethrower demonstrated that the power of a weapon is measured not only by its physical destruction, but also by the fear it inspires. Its legacy serves as a reminder that war is not only about combat, but also a psychological struggle for survival and morale.